Most High in Christ bless everyone. Sisters, how you doing? Brothers, how you doing? All right, all praises. Give honor and glory to the Most High for another day and another Sabbath. All right, all praises. Today we're gonna go over sort of what we went over last week. We're gonna talk about our good old friend Esau once again. I was trying to leave this topic alone, try to address other things, but I just gotta address this. Okay, the title of today's class is called The Atrocities of the Fourth Head. The Atrocities of the Fourth Head. Once again, everybody should have pen and paper, your Bible, both men and women. Okay? The Atrocities of the Fourth Head. Who's reading for me? Who's reading? All right. Officer Lavi? All right. Let's open up with Revelation. Chapter 17, 1 through 3. Who was here for last week's class? And we went over Daniel, the 7th chapter. Okay, good. So, all right. Everybody should be in tune with what we're going over today if you were here for last week. All right. Let's go with Revelation, chapter 17, 1 through 3. You know, you try to leave Esau alone, but you know, traveling the world, you see different things that our brothers and sisters go through, the poverty, you know, all the wrongs that's been committed against us as a nation of people. It's like you got to talk about it. You have to talk about it. All right, and this is what we're going to do. We're not going to leave the topic alone. We are going to reveal the evils that these other nations have done against us. All right, let's get Revelation 17. Go ahead.
This is the book of Revelations, chapter 17 and verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven veils, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters.
Upon many
waters.
Who is the great whore? Who is that great whore? The who? Brother right here in the front. Try not to call out. Brother right here. Say your name before you answer.
Soldier Kiefer.
Soldier Kiefer.
Yes, sir. United States Babylon the Great.
Yes, Babylon the Great is that great whore. Hold on, not yet. That sitteth upon many waters. What is that going into? What is the waters making reference to?
Many nations that got their military everywhere.
Many nations. All right, the waters is talking about the nations. Sitteth upon many nations. That's why America has what? Where? In every country?
Bases.
The what?
Military bases.
Also the U.S. Embassy, and so forth. Okay, go ahead, Lavi, read.
Verse 2, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication.
Which who, the what?
With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication.
Somebody explain that, Officer Shema. It says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Come on, give me the answer. What does that make in reference to? Does that mean the kings of the earth are coming over here and having homosexual sex with the people in the White House? What is that talking about?
It's talking about they do their bidding with them.
They do their bidding with them.
Yep.
Yes, they are in allegiance with the great whore. Okay, go ahead.
With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
They have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Officer Zephaniah, explain that part.
It's going into them accepting the policies. And
Policies, okay, what else?
The doctrines.
Doctrines,
White
what
man
else?
Jesus.
If you had to sum up all of that in one word, what would you say? What does the wine represent?
Lies.
According to what?
Micah 2 and 11.
Okay, very good. Let's get that real quick. Officer Lavi, let's get that. It says, have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Let's go into the wine real quick. What does the wine represent?
This is the book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 11. If a man walking in the spirit and falsehood do lie, saying, I will prophesy unto thee of wine and of strong drink.
So that wine is making reference to lies, Go back to Revelation. 17 and the end of verse 2 again.
Revelation chapter 17 and verse 2.
The end part.
And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
Have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. The representation is the lies. They're all in allegiance with the policies and the lies that America has brought forth. Read.
Verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast.
So America, this great whore, this woman sits upon a scarlet colored beast. The scarlet colored beast. Read.
Full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Now, why does it say scarlet covered beast? Why does it say scarlet covered beast? Yohanatan. Why does it say scarlet covered beast?
What comes to mind is in Revelation it says that the dragon,
What chapter?
the red
What verse?
dragon.
What chapter? Somebody help him.
Chapter 12.
Let's get that. Let's get that. Scarlet is just another name for the color red. All right? Revelation chapter 12 and verse 3.
Revelation chapter 12 and verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon.
A great red dragon, representation of whom? What nation of people, brothers?
Esau.
According to what scripture? Genesis 25:25. Very good. Read.
Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads.
Go back now to Revelation 17.
Revelation chapter 17 and verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet covered beast.
So this scarlet colored beast, this red colored beast, come on.
Full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Now get me Isaiah chapter 1 verse 18. I'm going to show you something. We're looking at the characteristics of this beast who had what? How many heads?
7.
7 heads and what else?
10 horns.
Now they're all from the same beast, right? These 7 heads and these 10 horns are all from the same animal, which God calls a dragon, and then he also makes reference to them as a beast. So they have the same characteristics, they all possess the same traits, the same characteristics, because they all come from the same beast. Give me Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 18.
This is the book of Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 18. Come now and let us reason together, saith the Lord.
Come on.
Though your sins be as scarlet,
Though your sins be as what?
be as scarlet.
So though your sins be as scarlet. So look at how God is describing the sins of our people. He says, though your sins be as scarlet, come on.
They shall be as white as snow.
So the Most High said he's going to purify us once we repent. Our sins are going to be made white as snow, meaning he's going to do away with our sins. Come on.
Though they be red like crimson.
Though they be red, now he says that same scarlet is now red like crimson. Whenever you read the scriptures, that color red is always talking about making reference to evil. I know a lot of you been beguiled and misled by Esau and their definition of black. That's why they call us black people. When you look up the definition, it means impure, evil, unrighteous, and so forth. But the red man, the Edomite man, God defines them with that color for a reason, because they're full of sin. They're full of mischief ever since the beginning, ever since Cain. And then they came back into regeneration as Esau. Okay, God says they're full of sin. Read that one more time. Verse 18. Come on.
Verse 18. Come now and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool.
Now, go back to Revelation 17, verse 3.
Revelation chapter 17 and verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-covered beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Full of the names of blasphemy. What is that talking about? Full of the names of blasphemy. Officer Eleazar, what is that talking about? It says full of the names of blasphemy.
Seeing lies going in, Michael, going into sins or the philosophies of America.
Okay, what else? Give me some, be more specific. So we're talking about these 7 heads, right?
Yes, sir. Came in late on this, sir.
So what are the characteristics that they all have? You just said it. The sin is correct, but what says full of names of blasphemy? What are these nations, the 7 heads? Who can name the 7 heads?
Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany, Russia, and Great Britain.
Excellent. Very good. Write that down. You should memorize it. Who's the 4th? Don't call out, because some of y'all brothers are calling out wrong answers in the crowd. Somebody just said Babylon the Great. Who is the 4th head? Out of those 7 that Officer Shema just mentioned, who is the 4th head? Repeat it again for him. Write it down. Write it down. Do it again.
Greece, Rome, Spain.
Say it slow. Go slow for them.
Greece, Rome, Spain, France.
Who's the 4th? France. So today we're talking about France. Okay? France. The atrocities of the 4th head, which is France. Okay. Go back to my original question. Revelation 17, verse 3 again.
Revelation chapter 17 and verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast.
So this woman, the great whore, America, sits upon a scarlet-colored beast, that red dragon full of sin. Read.
Full of names of blasphemy.
Full of the names of blasphemy. What are some of the lies that these 7 heads possess? As well as the 10 crowns, the 10 common markets, the EU. What do they all say? What do they all have in common, brothers? It's not a trick question. Brother in the back.
Shalom, sir.
Say your name again.
Brother Bell.
Brother Bell.
Yes, sir. That Christ is a white man.
That Christ is a white man. Through what? Through his what? His religion.
His religion, yes,
That's
sir.
what we learn about Christ. So when you go to Italy, it's the same thing with the Roman Catholic Church by way of Rome. When you go to France, it's the same thing. The predominant religion is what? Christianity. And so forth. They all teach the same thing. They all have the same thing in common when you read about these different heads, okay? They all teach the same thing, a white supremacy version of Christianity. Okay, not in any of these countries where you find the 7 heads or the 10 horns, you'll see them telling you that the Israelites are so-called black people, Hispanics or natives. No, they all have the same blasphemy. Read that part again.
Revelation chapter 17 and verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy.
Come on.
Having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now go to Genesis. Who knows the biblical name for that landmass over there called France?
Not sure.
Okay, write this down. Write this down. Can I get the map? Officer Jonathan, are they paying attention? Okay. Can I get the map? There we go. All right, hopefully y'all can see it. It's kind of pixelated. All right, that is the ancient biblical map. Okay, right there, you see where it says Gomer? Gomer. That is the name of the original people who inhabited that landmass today called France and Switzerland. Later on, they were pushed out by the Edomites. Okay, it says Switzerland and France. Do y'all see that? Okay, you're going to write Gomer, and you're also going to write Gaul, Gaul. You can read about Gaul in the works of Josephus. It talks about how Gaul intermingled with the Thracians or something like that. That's where you get the word Galatians from. Okay, you have Gomer, Gaul, and then Crimea. Write this down. Crimmea. Crimmea. All making reference to that landmass over there called France. Give me Genesis 10, verse 2. Genesis 10, verse 2.
Genesis chapter 10 and verse 2. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tabal.
Who are we reading about? Brothers? The sons of Japheth. Read it again. Let me make sure I get it with you. Read it along.
Genesis chapter 10 and verse 2. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog,
Come on.
and Madiah, and Javan, and Tabal, and
Meshach.
Meshach,
Uh-huh.
and Tyrus.
And Tyrus. Okay, so Gomer right there was the son of Japheth. Like I said, it was originally inhabited by the sons of Japheth, but through conquests and so forth, was pushed out by Esau. All right, get me the book that I sent on Edom, conquering Europe. This is in regards to Esau taking over. This is in regards to Esau taking over and pushing people out of their land. All right, blow that up. Blow that up a little bit. Because we just read that Gomer inhabited the land of what we call France today, correct? So what happened to the children of Japheth? Let's read that. Start where it says first. Read that for me, Lemuel.
First, that the descendants of Esau, blow it up just a little bit. First, that the descendants of Esau, the sworn enemies of the descendants of Jacob, even to the end of the world, were at first a small nation, inhabiting Mount Seir and the adjacent country contiguous to the land of Canaan, that they were easily confined within their own limits, as long as the Israelites enjoyed a great and formidable empire in Canaan. But that after the powerful republic of the 12 tribes was destroyed by the Assyrians and Babylonians, they wonderfully increased in numbers and strength, extended their dominion towards the west, spread their colonies far and wide.
Hear what it says, extended their dominion towards the west. Come on.
Subjugated Italy, founded Rome.
Subjugated Italy and founded Rome. Remember the class that we did? That's on the YouTube page when I went into Esau and the founders of Rome and Germany and so forth. Come on.
Founded Rome and the Roman Empire. At length entirely overturned the Jewish state, which had been restored after the termination of the Babylonian captivity. The second temple being destroyed by Titus Vespasian.
That's 70 AD.
And that in the present day, professing the religion of Jesus of Nazareth, which they were the first of all nations to embrace. They hold the dominion over all Europe.
They hold the dominion over all Europe. That's all I wanted. You can close that out. If y'all want the name of the book, come up after class. It says they hold the dominion over all Europe. Where's France? Europe. So that's what happened to the children of Japheth. A lot of them intermingled, mixed in with Esau, and Esau pushed some of them out as well and conquered them. Okay, go back to Genesis 10, verse 2 again.
Genesis chapter 10 and verse 2. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan.
So he was one of the sons of Japheth when you read Gomer. Okay, so no, the French are not the seed of Japheth. We just read that. Because the original inhabitants of the land, Gomer, was pushed out by Esau, who has dominion over all Europe. And the scholars notice it's only the so-called Negroes who don't like to read. They're the only ones that's always deceived, okay, by these white supremacist ideologies, okay? But it's written in their books, and they pass it to their people to understand who you are, okay, and what to keep from you. That's why a lot of these books are extremely expensive when you look on abesbook.com or Amazon and so forth, okay? Let's get Malachi. Let's get Malachi chapter 1, 3 to 4. Okay. Malachi chapter 1, we're going to read We're going to read start at verse 1.
Malachi chapter 1 and verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau's Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I love Jacob.
Yeah, because every time you look up, Israel's in captivity. So we're asking God, if we are your favorite and you say you love us, why are we always at the bottom? Why are we always in slavery? Why are we always the oppressed? The last hired, first fired. Read.
And I hated Esau.
But the Most High says, no, I loved you. I'm just going to have to chastise you because you broke my commandments, right? But he says, I hated Esau. Come on.
And laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness.
And when did that happen? When did he lay his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness? When did that happen, brothers? Officer Shema, what time period?
That was during the time of 193.
Okay, all the way up. It started with 193.
All the way up to 1452.
Okay, 1453.
53.
Okay, what was that time period called?
The Dark Ages.
Dark Ages, very good. Read that part again, Officer Lavi.
Verse 3, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness.
Come on.
Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return.
We are impoverished. We are poor. This was not talking about the time of Genesis, because they were called what during the time of Genesis? Dukes. They were dukes. Okay? They were dukes. Later on, they were called what? They were called what later on? What's another name for a duke? They were called Caesars. They were called Caesars. Then later on, the same Edomites were called what? Khazars. Right? Then later on, they were called Kaiser. It's all the same thing. Caesar, Khazar, and then Kaiser, like Kaiser Wilhelm, who's also mentioned in the Bible, but that's somewhere else. That's something else. Kaiser, okay? Kaiser, Caesar, Khazar, but in the book of Genesis, they were called dukes. That was their title. Y'all understand? Write that down. So when that question comes up, you're not lost. Okay? Where were we? Malachi 1, right?
1 verse 4.
Go ahead.
Malachi chapter 1 verse 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished.
And in Russia, they call them Tsar. T-S-A-R, Tsar. They all mean the same thing. Okay? Caesar, Kaiser, Khazar, and Tsar, same thing. In the book of Genesis, called dukes. Go ahead.
Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places.
So that was in the Dark Ages when they fell. And then they returned and built the desolate places during the time of the Renaissance. But remember, in the year 1453, it didn't just pop off then. It was a build-up to it. It was a build-up, okay? We would allow certain of them to serve in our courts, hold positions of rank within the political systems. When we were ruling, and when we were ruling during the Dark Ages, that was not a time of righteousness. We was wicked as hell. There was a lot of coup d'etats and so forth. Okay, we was wicked as hell. Okay, and we allowed Esau, we gave Esau different positions, and then they eventually rose up. Okay, in 1453. Get me the next article I sent about the 100 Years' War. Okay, we're still on the topic of Gomer. We're still talking about France.
100 Years' War. The 100 Years' War was a series of conflicts from 1337 to 1453.
So when did it start? When did this series of conflicts start?
From 1337 to 1453.
Why did it stop at 1453? What year was 1453? The what?
The Renaissance.
The Renaissance. The Renaissance at its full birth. When who? When Edomites got into full power and started overthrowing the kingdoms, the dark kingdoms, the kings and so forth, where we were the ones ruling. But the 100 Years' War popped off since 1337. Okay? And it was just like a woman in travail. All right? Little pockets of insurrection here, little pockets of insurrection there, little rebellion here, little rebellion there, and then it fully magnified itself in the year 1453. Read that again.
The 100 Years' War was a series of conflicts from 1337 to 1453, waged between the House of Plantagenet, rulers of England.
Who were the rulers of England, brothers? We were. Come on.
Rulers of England and the French House of Valois.
And many of us also was in charge over there in France. But like I said, we was wicked as hell. It was all about domination. Okay? It was all. That's why they had a whole bunch of coup d'etats going on. Read.
Over the right to rule the kingdom of France. Each side drew many allies into the war.
Each side drew many allies into the war. A lot of the allies that we took on were Edomites. Okay? Come on.
It was one of the most notable conflicts of the Middle Ages, in which 5 generations of kings from 2 rival dynasties fought for the throne of the largest kingdom in Western Europe. The war marked both the height of chivalry and its subsequent decline, and the development of strong national identities in both countries.
Okay, so when you go into the history, it shows that a lot of our people were ruling. Put the picture of the book for those who are interested. If you want knowledge of the Crusades, if you want more knowledge of the medieval Europe's family, Henry II, Richard the Lionheart, and so forth, you can get this book right here. Can I get the picture of the book on the screen, please? There we go. That's the book right there. I have the book right here. It says between the house of the Plantagenet is the Plantagenet Chronicles. Okay, y'all can order that and look up the history. There's a lot of whitewashed images in here, but it goes into the history of how the house of the kings of England was trying to take over the kings of France. Okay, where at one point our people were ruling. Okay, this is a heavy book right here. All right, go back to Malachi again. So I just wanted to show y'all the 100 Years' War, how it was from 1337 all the way to 1453. 1453 was the year of the Renaissance, okay? When the white man was coming up into almost his full power, and he started dominating and taking control of Europe where we ruled. Read that part again, Malachi 1 and verse 4.
Malachi chapter 1 verse 4. Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down.
God says, all right, you're going to build. I see you. You coming back now. You're going to build. But guess what? I'm going to have the last laugh. I'm going to throw down. Okay? But before they started to build, they were what? Pushed into the caves of Georgia, Russia, between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. That's where you get the name Caucasian from and so forth. Let's go to Job. Job chapter 30. We're going to read 1 through 10. Job chapter 30, 1 through 10. Come on.
It's the book of Job, chapter 30, verse 1. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision.
Why is that? Why does it say that? But now they that are younger than I have me in derision. Anybody know? Officer Shema?
I'll take a stab at it. It's because we was running Esau in the beginning, and now Esau has us
in derision.
In derision.
In mockery. Come on.
Whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock.
So Job is saying these people, I would even sit them with my dogs. Okay? I would not even put them in the same cage or room with my dogs. Come on.
Yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary.
For want and famine they were solitary. What is that going into? Because we just read it. Don't lose the thought. For want, for lack and famine they were solitary. What is that going into, Soldier Kiefer?
Going into Malachi when they were saying they was impoverished.
Yes, when they were impoverished and pushed where?
pushed to the carcass.
The
Russia.
caves.
Right.
Okay, come on.
For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste.
So we chased them out, and they fled into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste. Come on.
Who cut up mellows by the
Cut
bushes
up mallows by the bushes. Come on.
and junipers roots for their meat.
And juniper roots for their meat. Okay, these are stuff they was eating while they was in the caves. Okay, that's why in the book the 13th tribe by Arthur Koestler says that they used to take the lice out of their hair and eat that. Okay, come on.
They were driven forth from among men.
We drove them out, just like we read in verse 3. They were driven forth from among men. Because remember, the natives, right? When the conquistadors came over here, the records, the account of the natives is how the conquistadors smelt a certain way. They smelt like death. And the natives had to teach them how to wash, had to introduce them to deodorant and toothpaste and so forth. We taught them that. We taught them the manners that you see they so-called possess today. Okay? That goes way back. But I know that's too hard for some of us to think. Because we look at the way we are today as a nation of people, and we don't see ourselves actually teaching these people. Because they're over us. Okay, come on.
They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief.
They cried after them as after a thief. Come on.
To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys.
To dwell in the what?
In the cliffs of the valleys.
The caves of the mountains. Come on.
In caves of the earth.
In caves of the earth. Come on.
And in the rocks.
And in the rocks. Come on.
Among the bushes they...
See, the Most High makes things plain, because a lot of us were still fighting with that Christian mindset. A lot of us still have Edomite friends in the world. A lot of us still have best friends of the Edomites. Some of us have lovers on the side that are Edomites. But hear what the Bible is telling you. Look what the Bible is telling you. To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Come on.
Among the bushes they braid.
And among the bushes they braid. Come on.
Under the nettles. The nettles they were gathered together.
On.
They were children of fools.
Come on.
Yea, children of base men.
Children of base men. Why? Because the law, statutes, and commandments wasn't given to them. God chose a holy people, a holy vessel to give his laws to. You children of Israel, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and native. So when you look at the other nation, God calls them base. That's why in 2 Ezra chapter 6, verse 54 and down, God says what? He compares them as to what? Spittle. That's what God says. But a lot of you fight with that. A lot of you are still fighting on to that affinity, that white supremacist mind state that you have. This kumbaya, we're all gonna get along. I'm telling you, the Most High is about to shake this kingdom up. Isaiah 13 will be fulfilled. Where it says everybody's going to flee to their own, Isaiah 13 will be fulfilled. It's whether you're going to believe in that or you're going to fight against God. Okay, read.
They were children of fools. Yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. And now am I their song.
Now we are their song. They have us in derision. Okay, come on.
Yea, I am their byword.
Now we have become bywords to them. We've become niggas, African American, coons, black Hebrew Israelites. That's what they call us. Come on.
They abhor me.
They hate me. Come on.
They flee far from me and spare not to spit in my face.
They flee far from you. Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. They flee far from you and they spit in your face. They might not be doing that physically, but they do it spiritually, mentally. They do it by way of propaganda, right? Their policies that they implement in today's society, they spit in your face constantly. You got a face full of spit. And some of y'all still can't see it. Some of y'all still have an affinity for that white man, for that white woman. Okay? Come on.
Verse 11. Because he had loosed my cord and afflicted me.
Just stop right there. Okay? Get me Daniel. Get me Daniel chapter 4, verse 17. Daniel chapter 4, verse 17.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 4 and verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men.
So the Most High is the one that rules in the kingdom of heaven, of men. Okay? And he sets up whom he pleases. And in this case, he chose the basis of men, the men that used to live in the caves, to rule over us. Why? Because of our sins. Read.
And giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men.
And setteth up over it the basis of men. And when did God set the basis of men up over us? What time period? We were reading it earlier in Malachi. Huh? The Renaissance period. In what year? 1453. Okay? And we're still concentrating on France. We're still concentrating on France. Okay. Get me Genesis. So we just read Daniel 4, verse 17. God said he rules in the kingdom of men and sets over it the basis of men. Like I said before, a lot of you still are beguiled by this white supremacy ideology in your mind, thinking that the other nations are better than you, mainly Esau. But God calls them the basis of men. Okay? The law, statutes, and commandments was not given to them. It was given to you, which makes you far superior than everybody. You could read about that in Deuteronomy 7, verse 6. All right? It's truth. It's not hate. They'll say it's hate, anti this, anti that. No. The Bible says that you are God's special people, above all people upon the face of this earth. Okay? Let's get that. Genesis 27. You're going to read 39 to 40. Let's read about the blessings. We're about to read about the blessings of Esau. How was he able to become base, to go from base to ruling over us? Why? Because it was prophesied in the Bible. Come on.
Genesis chapter 27 and verse 29.
Verse
39.
39.
39. And Isaac, his father.
Start at verse 38.
Genesis chapter 27 and verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
So he started crying. He started crying for a blessing because his father Isaac gave the best blessing to Jacob. Go ahead.
And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth.
Your dwelling, the places where you reside, Esau, and your descendants is going to be the best places on earth. The best places on earth. But how are you going to get the best places on earth? Read.
And of the dew of heaven from
You're going
above.
to be everywhere as the dew of heaven. Come on.
And by thy sword.
And by thy what?
And by thy sword.
And by thy sword. And by thy sword. And by thy sword. Go ahead.
Shalt thou live.
Shalt you live. So you're going to get the best places of heaven by your sword. You're going to be like the dew of heaven because of your sword. Come on.
And shalt serve thy brother.
And then at the end of days, you're going to serve your brother. Come on.
And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
You could read about that in 2 Kings, the 8th chapter. Okay, where we broke off the dominion after King Solomon, during the time of after King David and King Solomon. Okay, so God is telling you that this man is going to utilize his sword to get the best places on earth. Okay, now we're talking about the fourth head. They all had the same characteristics, right? They conquered, they destroyed, and they conquered. They used the sword. They used the sword to colonize this whole planet Earth. All right. Let's get Daniel 7 and verse 8.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn.
So where it says I considered the horns, And they came up amongst them another little horn. What is this making reference to? We went over it last week. Officer Lavi.
It's making reference to America.
Who is the horns?
The
Somebody help them. Who knows?
Going into the three of France, Spain, and Britain.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Write that down, brother. Just write it down. So next time y'all got the right answer. Okay? America was colonized originally, before the colonies were set up and in the War of Independence. Who colonized America? Huh? Say it again. Say it louder. Come on. Brother right there. Hold it before you answer. Get me the French colonization of the Americas. Go ahead.
Oh, shalom, Brother Kadash.
Brother Kadash.
Spain, France, and Britain.
Very good. Excellent. Those are the main three that you read about in history. Y'all took history classes, right? Or y'all was asleep? Come on, let's look at it. Y'all was asleep. Y'all was waiting on gym class and recess. Come on. So let's get this map right here. This is the French colonization of the Americas. Can we zoom in? Hold on, right there. It says France, Great Britain, and Spain. And it also says territories. Zoom in a bit. Territories ceded by France to Great Britain by the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713. So you see all of the areas? Spain conquered those places right there in the bottom, like New Mexico, Texas is up there, right? The blue part was the places that was conquered by France. We have Canada, we have Quebec, Montreal, Detroit, Green Bay, St. Louis, Cape Girardeau, Mobile, Biloxi, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans. Do y'all see that? Read that part again in Daniel. Leave that up there and read that in Daniel again.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn.
Who's the little horns again, Kazakh? Stand up. You're guessing again. Read it again for Kazakh.
I considered the horns.
Who? He said, I considered the horns.
Spain, France, and Britain.
Read.
I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them.
Who was the ones that came up amongst them? Another little horn.
America.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Read.
Before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots.
So those same three was plucked up by the roots. These three were plucked up by the roots. Come on.
And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man.
Because it was men. The reason is the eyes of men, because it was men that was ruling. Come on.
And a mouth speaking great things.
Where did we read that earlier? And a mouth speaking great things. Don't lose focus. America's not the only one that speaks great things. All of these heads speak the same way. They all have what in common? Huh? Somebody said it. Blasphemies. We read that earlier. It says a mouth speaking great things. Go back to Revelation 17 verse 3 and hold that.
Revelation chapter 17 and verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast full of names of blasphemy.
Full of names of blasphemies. Name of lies. Go back to Daniel. Daniel 7 again. Come on.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8. I considered their horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horn plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man.
Come on.
And a mouth speaking great things.
And a mouth speaking great things. The same blasphemy that we read about in Revelation 17. Okay? Speaking great blasphemy. Okay? Bring that up. Bring that down. get me the article on Haiti. Okay, let's read that.
In 1825, Haiti paid France 21 billion.
1825, our people were still enslaved. 1804, our people were still enslaved here in America. Haiti was the first free black country. Okay, go ahead.
Haiti paid France $21 billion to preserve its independence.
So Haiti freed themselves by way of insurrection, rebellion, as Esau calls it. I call it freedom fighting, right? And they charged them. They said, you freed yourself, but now you got to pay us. That's some ass whipping right there.
Right.
For real. You beat us, but now you got to pay me. Go ahead, come on.
Time for France to pay it back.
See, look, hold on, look at the picture. That's how France took everything. The brother, look at his teeth, man, jacked up, because they don't have the proper money over there to provide themselves with dental care, health care. Okay, and guess what? France is still doing that until this very day. All right, go down. Read.
The devastation wreaked on Haiti by Hurricane Matthew last fall was just the latest in a seemingly endless string of misfortunes that have befallen that country. Blow it up a little bit. Which in March concluded a year-long interlude of caretaker governance by installing banana exporter Jovenel Moïse as its 58th president.
It's a French pronunciation of Moses. Go ahead.
Moïse faces a daunting task. Haiti's chronic status as the Western Hemisphere's poorest nation.
Why is it the Western Hemisphere's poorest nation? What was the prophecy?
You're talking about Malachi 2:9.
Read it. Read it. You read it. You read it. You called it. You read it.
The book of Malachi, chapter 2, verse 9. I'll start at verse 8. But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law.
Why is that? Because the Levites were the who? Were the priests, okay? And the Levites are the so-called Haitians today. Come on.
Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base.
And base. Come on.
Before all the people.
Before all the people, okay? Before all the tribes, the tribe of Levi is the basis of men, at the bottom, okay? And we're reading one of the curses now. All right, you could drop that. Go back to the article.
Haiti's chronic status as the Western Hemisphere's poorest nation is due to a litany of afflictions that range from widespread illiteracy to endemic corruption to woefully inadequate infrastructure.
All caused by the French. Okay, go ahead.
But while these would be hard enough for any country to overcome, for more than a century of its existence, Haiti carried an additional but little-known millstone, the effects of which are still being felt.
Come on.
In 1825, barely 2 decades after winning its independence against all odds, Haiti was forced to begin paying enormous reparations.
That is madness. They was forced to pay reparations for their own freedom. That's crazy. Go ahead.
To the French slaveholders it had overthrown. Those payments would have been a staggering burden for any fledgling nation. But Haiti wasn't just any fledgling nation. It was a republic formed and led by blacks who'd risen up against the institution of slavery.
Come on.
As such, Haiti's independence was viewed as a threat by all slave-owning countries.
Yes, it was. And guess what? The news of that insurrection spread here. I got the actual official newspaper at home where they talked about what happened in Haiti, and they were scared to death that it was going to take place here. They were going to what? They were going to inspire the slaves here. Okay, it was all over the newspapers. Go ahead.
The United States included, and its very existence rankled racist sensibilities globally. Thus, Haiti, tiny, impoverished, and all alone in a hostile world, had little choice but to accede to France's reparation demands.
Why? Because they cut off all importing, right? They tried to manipulate a lot of the exporting and importing, because remember, the neighboring islands were still in what? Slavery. Go ahead.
which were delivered to Port-au-Prince by a fleet of heavily armed warships in 1825. By complying with an ultimatum that amounted to extortion, Haiti gained immunity from French military invasion, relief from political and economic isolation, and a crippling debt that took 122 years to pay off.
Come on.
My father-in-law still recalls the patriotic song he was taught as a Haitian schoolboy. Its poignant lyrics urging all Haitians to reach into their own pockets to help their government raise the amount that was still owed to France.
Go ahead.
Thanks to voluntary contributions from Haiti's citizens, most of whom were desperately poor, that debt was finally settled in 1947.
Come on.
But decades of making regular payments had rendered the Haitian government chronically insolvent, helping to create a pervasive climate of instability from which the country still hasn't recovered. France's demand for reparations from Haiti seems comically outrageous today, equivalent to a kidnapper suing his escaped hostage for the cost of fixing a window that had been broken during the escape.
Hey, that's the perfect analogy for that thing. Esau is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Man.
Right.
Go ahead.
And though the present French government can't be blamed for the gall of King Charles X, France's ruler in 1825, a modicum of historical accountability sure would be nice. While France still ranks among the world's wealthiest nations, Haiti, with a per capita annual income of $350, Lord, a power grid that fails on a regular basis, and a network of roads that's more than 50% unpaved.
Hey, and that's true. I've been to Haiti a few times. All of that is true. I still remember the blackouts when I was like, 10 years old. I went there. There was blackouts at night. Got to have a flashlight. You don't have a flashlight, man, you're going to walk right into a pit, okay? It's the same thing. And now they bringing in China to pave the roads. And you know that's going to come with a demand. Okay, go ahead.
Is plagued by drought, food shortages, and a struggling economy. For the crime of shaking off the yoke of involuntary servitude, Haiti dutifully paid France reparations over the course of nearly 6 generations with interest.
With interest. The nerve, the
caucasity.
The caucasity of this demon. Go ahead.
France should now do the right thing and return those payments.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Might as well hold your breath. You hold your breath, you're going to drop dead. Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Estimated to total $21 billion in today's dollars.
You know what that could do for the economy? But it's not going to happen. Why? We just read it. We read what would happen to the tribe of Levi. Okay, what would happen to all the tribes? A lot of us are looking for reparations. Our only reparations, brothers and sisters, is by keeping the commandments and when Christ comes back. That's it. Ain't going to be no reparations, man. I'm telling y'all. Okay, go ahead.
What would be a relative pittance in the French national budget is desperately needed by Haiti and could help it begin a broad-based recovery that would seem like manna from heaven to its long-suffering people.
I wonder why they put that in there. The manna from heaven. Okay? To long-suffering people, because those people that are suffering are God's people. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy 28 now, 15. Find out why is this happening, all right? We already know why, but we're going to read it anyway, because some of you might have forgot. Deuteronomy 28, verse 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come up on thee and overtake thee.
So Moses, our Levite forefather, he warned us. He warned us. He was speaking to us in the wilderness. He was like, if you break God's curses, you're going to go into captivity. What happened to us? We went into slavery. Okay, all of the curses came up upon us because we did what? We broke every single last commandment. So God allowed the other nations to rule over us and take us into captivity. Give me verse 49. We're going to jump around.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
As swift as the eagle flieth. Come on.
A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
Go back to verse 49 again.
Verse 49, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
As swift as the eagle flieth. AV team, you got that for me? The eagle heraldry. Stay with me. Okay, let's go down. Remember, we're talking about the fourth head of that scarlet beast. They all have the same characteristics. They all use the eagle as their signet, their ensign. Okay, go down. Look at France right there. Read that again. Deuteronomy 28, verse 49.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
As swift as the eagle flieth, the eagle. What symbol was France, brothers?
The eagle.
Same thing as America. They all have the same characteristics. Go down. Right? Look at right there. It talks about France right there with Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay? They all reverence the eagle. The eagle. Okay, you could close that out. Read again, Lavi.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance.
Come on, they were fierce. They put all of us to death, whether we were kids, grown-ups, old people. We all had to serve slavery. Come on.
Which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young.
Nor show favor to the young. Get me Napoleon Bonaparte's quote on our brothers and sisters from the tribe of Levi. Napoleon's quote. Read that, Lemuel.
My decision
This is the man that got his butt whipped by Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Go ahead.
My decision to destroy the authority of the blacks in Saint-Domingue.
Saint-Domingue.
Domain.
Saint-Domingue was another name for the island of Hispaniola. It was later changed to Saint-Domingue. Today, that portion is called Santo Domingo. Go ahead.
Is not so much based on considerations of commerce and money.
So it's not really about the money per se, even though we enjoy those benefits. Come on.
As on the need to block forever the march of the blacks in the world.
Forever. Read that part again, because I think some of y'all are still lost. As on the what?
As on the need to block forever.
Forever. Their job is to block forever. Keep in mind that word there, forever. Who are we talking about? The Frenchman. Who's the Frenchman? The Edomite man. He says on the need to block forever. The what?
The march of the blacks in the world.
Meaning the rise of the blacks in the world. Okay, that's why he wanted to destroy Haiti's revolution. Okay, but he could not. Okay, take that demon off the screen. Take him off the screen. Get me the video from IUIC documentaries. 10 facts about slavery that you never knew. All right, I did this a while back. Some of the facts were indeed talking about what happened to our brothers and sisters on the island of Hispaniola, also known as Haiti. Let's show that. So as we go through this, pause it. As we go through this, I'm going to tell you which one was making reference to what the French did. Okay, go ahead. Come on. Fact number 10. Fact number 10 is not, I didn't find any evidence of this being done over there in Haiti, but they probably did too. But this was talking about what happened here with Nat Turner. But go ahead.
Human handbags. Nat Turner, who launched a slave rebellion in Southampton County, Virginia on August 21st, 1831, was skinned to supply such souvenirs as purses, his flesh made into grease, and his bones divided as trophies to be handed down as heirloom. It is rumored his skull was passed around local physicians and
so
studied
this is
as
what
medical.
actually, this is real. This is not fictitious. All right, this is not part of my imagination because I want to, how you say that? When you blow things out of portion, what's the word that they use? Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. So they really did this to Nat Turner because we had the We had the opportunity to speak to Bruce Turner when we did the documentary, the Nat Turner documentary. We spoke to one of his descendants who researched it and actually found a descendant of one of the Edomites. And this is what they did to him. After they hung him, they skinned him, they quartered him, and they kept his head for studies. Okay? The skull of Nat Turner. They wanted to know what made him think the way he thought. Okay? Go ahead.
To try to advocate theories of racial superiority. Fact number 9, anthills. Many slaves in the island of Hispaniola were buried alive with their heads above ground, which was kept wet with cane juice.
This was in Haiti. This was done in the island of Hispaniola by the French. Go ahead.
With cane juice till the insects devoured their flesh. Fact.
So they buried them alive and their head was above the ground so they wouldn't suffocate, and they put cane juice from sugar cane, because Haiti was known for what? Sugar cane. They would pour the sugar cane juice on their heads, and eventually killer ants, red ants, would come and chew the skin off their head. That's how sick the French was. Read leave that on the screen. Read Deuteronomy 28 verse 50 again.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
And guess what? Although this was a prophecy of Rome coming into Jerusalem and besieging it and so forth, as we read on, but all of the what? All of the heads possess the same what? Characteristics. It's the same thing. Same thing. A nation of fierce countenance. Go ahead, press play.
Fact number 8, holler if you hear me. Cutting off ears was a very common punishment amongst slave plantations in the Caribbean. But M. Junois, who lived at Grand Riviere, nailed his slaves to the wall by the ears, then released him by cutting them off with a razor, and dosed entertainment, compelling him to grill and...
So this one Edomite, for pastime, this is what he liked to do. If he would call a slave and he wouldn't respond right away, he would he would take their ear and nail it to a tree.
Him to grill and eat them. There were overseers who never went out without a hammer and nails in their pockets.
So after he cut off the ears, he would grill them and force the slaves to eat the ears. Same thing that was happening on this time with the American Edomites that broke off from the British colonies. Remember when they would hang us? What was their MO? What did they do?
They castrated us.
They would castrate us, cut off the ears, the nose, and the penis, and hold it for trophies. It's the same thing. These devils are all sick all over. I don't care if they're from Spain, France, Great Britain, Portugal. They all have the same thing, okay? Different heads of the same beast. Go ahead.
Ear to a tree or post was humorous. Fact number 7, sugar-free. Throwing Negroes into the furnaces with the waste of the sugarcane was common amongst sugarcane plantation owners. Fact number 6, shoot and scorch. Target practice at Negroes' heads was very common, singeing them upon cassava plates. Grinding them slowly through the sugar mill, pitching them into the boiler was occasional pastime for the plantation owners. Fact number 5, derby dose. On the island of Jamaica, plantation owner Thomas Thistlewood routinely punished his slaves with fierce floggings and other gruesome punishments. One of his preferred punishments for runaway slaves was the derby dose, where a slave would be beaten and then salt pickle, lime juice, and bird pepper would be rubbed onto their open wounds. Then another slave would be forced to defecate into the runaway's mouth, which would then be forced shut via various methods, gagging for hours. Fact number 4, stuffed animals. In the French Caribbean plantations, a favorite pastime was to bury Negroes up to their necks and let the children defecate on their heads. Pitying comrades were found to stone the sufferer to death. A few instances were known of planters who rolled the bodies of slaves, raw and bloody, from a whipping among the ant hills. If a cattle tender, farmer, let a mule or ox come to harm, the animal was killed, and the man sewed up in the canvas. This was done.
So they sold the man to the animal, to the skins. These are the atrocities that I was reading from a book from the island of Hispaniola, accounts of the Jesuits and the people there. This is what they was doing. Okay, go ahead.
This was done a few times in cases where the mule died of sickness. Fact number 3, the rascal laughs. The cases where French planters of Gonaïves watched curiously the characteristics of their various expedients.
So if this is just pastime, they was picking out different ways to torture us. Okay, this was just pastime for them. They were bored. So like, well, let's figure out how to torture this Negro today. This was one method that they used.
Their various expedients for torture are so common that they furnish us with a trait of French Creolism. A poor cook, for instance, was one day thrown into an oven with a crackling heap of bagasse because some article of food.
So this man brought slightly uncooked food to the slave master's table, and he was punished for it, which I find odd because they like to eat raw food anyway, right? Go ahead.
Because some article of food reached the table uncooked. As the lips curled and shriveled away from the teeth, his master, who was observing the effects of the heat, exclaimed, "Les ricaneries," meaning in French, the rascal laughs.
So they threw this hot sugarcane grease or whatever it was on the man's face, causing his skin to recede. So what happens when your skin recedes? Goes up. Looks like a smile, right? Go ahead.
Because some article of food reached the table uncooked. As the lips curled and shriveled away from the teeth, his master, who was observing the effects of the heat, exclaimed, "Les ricaneries," meaning in French, the rascal laughs. Fact number 2, Miss Laura. Numerous cases of flaying women alive inspired by jealousy are upon record. If a woman was fortunate enough to lose her baby, she was often thrown into a cell till she chose to have another. Madame Bailey had a wooden child made, which she fastened around the necks of the Negro. If their children died, until they chose to replace them.
So she would mock them. Okay, she would get a toy doll and tie it to the female's neck to remind her of the baby that she just lost, in hope that she would want to have another child. That's what the woman was doing, the French woman, the Edomite woman. Go ahead.
These punishments were devised to check infanticide, which was the natural relief of the slave mother. Fact number 1, blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Bloodletting, the most symbolical action expressive of the colony's evil diabolical practices, was performed by a man named Corbière, who punished his slaves by bloodletting and gave a humorous refinement to the sugar which he manufactured by using this blood to assist in clarifying it.
All right, so you could close that out. So those are the atrocities that was committed to our brothers over there in the island of Haiti. Okay, read verse 50 again so you don't forget the thought. Deuteronomy 28, verse 50.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
Give me verse 48.
Verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies.
So God says you're going to serve your enemies, not your friends. Brothers, sisters, your enemies, not your friends. Come on.
Which the Lord shall send against thee.
Why did God send them against us? Because we broke his commandments. All right, read.
In hunger, and in thirst,
come on,
and in nakedness, and in want of all things.
And in want of all things. Guess what? That all things is talking about religion. You want to learn about God, you had to go to him. Get me Le Code Noir, or also known as the Black Codes. Let's read this. Because the Bible says, in the want of all things. And that same man was going to put a yoke of iron on your neck. Read that, Officer Lemuel.
The Code Noir was a decree originally passed by Francis,
also known as Black Code. And guess what? We had that here in America, right? Same beast, man. Same head, same beast. Go ahead.
King Louis XIV in 1685. The King Noir defined the conditions of slavery in the French colonial empire, restricted the activities of free Negroes, forbade the exercise of any religion other than Roman Catholicism.
Forbade the exercise of any religion other than Roman Catholicism. Okay, so if you look at the trend, if you know any Levite brothers, all right, Haitian brothers and sisters, and you ask them what their religion is, a lot of them was raised on Catholicism. Okay, I was raised on Catholicism. All right, the whole island of Haiti had to follow that main religion. All right, bring that down. Okay, read verse 48 again, and then you're going to read 64.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things.
And in want of all things, go ahead.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
So if you wanted to learn who God was, learn how to read, learn how to speak their language, you had to go to him. You had to go to him. And that's what we just read with that black code law that they instituted on that island. Give me verse 64.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
You hear that? So we have to serve other gods. We have to serve the statue of the Virgin Mary, St. Jude, all these different Catholic saints, white man Jesus. The French was pushing that too. It wasn't just America. Okay? We got to remember that. All right? Give me Deuteronomy 28, verse 43.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high.
So God said, he warned us, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high. Very high. Come on.
And thou shalt come down very low.
And that's exactly what happened. The year 1453, we came down very low. Go ahead.
He shall lend to thee.
He's going to lend to us through his world banks, right? Through all the different commerce that he has set up. Go ahead.
And thou shalt not lend to him.
And we shall not lend to him. Go ahead.
He shall be the head. And thou shalt be the tail.
Was that verse 44?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Get me the articles of the 14 African countries forced by France. Okay, so now we discussed their colonial rule over Haiti. Now we're going to bring it up to to Africa. Okay, come on.
France, Africa. 14 African countries forced by France to pay colonial tax for the benefits of slavery and colonization.
Show me the picture. Show me the illustration. Look at that. Gluttonous Edomite. Look at that gluttonous Edomite. Fat as hell. Right? And look at the African. Poor as hell. Why? Because he's robbing him of all his resources and so forth. You know what? Before you read that, give me Deuteronomy 28. That just popped up in my head. Deuteronomy 28, verse 33.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up.
Come on.
And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
Until this very day. They still pushing that colonial tax on Africa. We're going to read about that thing. All right? That's why, look at them. Well-fed, fat as hell, taking up all the resources. That's in the Bible, that curse that we just read. In Deuteronomy 28, verse 33. Read.
Did you know many African countries continue to pay colonial tax to France since their independence till today?
Same thing they did to Haiti. Go ahead.
When Sekou Touré of Guinea decided in 1958 to get out of French colonial empire and opted for the country independence, the French colonial elite in Paris got so furious.
So the elite, these elite Edomite men in Paris was furious as hell. How dare you ask for your freedom? That's what they said. How dare you? Go ahead.
And in a historic act of fury, the French administration in Guinea destroyed everything in the country, which represented what they called the benefits from French colonization.
That's all they worried about, the benefits. Go ahead.
3,000 French left the country, taking all their property and destroying anything that which could not be moved. Schools, nurseries, public administration buildings were crumbled.
That's wicked as hell. Go ahead.
Cars, books, medicine, research institution instruments, tractors were crushed and sabotaged.
Now, these are things that they built. And they said, man, destroy all of that. You don't want me to rule over you? You have the nerve to ask me for your freedom? We're going to destroy everything that we built. Go ahead.
Horses, cows, and the farms were killed, and food and warehouses were burned or poisoned. The purpose of this outrageous act was to send a clear message to all of the colonies that the consequences for rejecting France would be very high.
So they was like, hell nah, you guys ain't about to do the same thing Haiti did. Try to set an example for the other blacks. We ain't allowing that. Go ahead.
Slowly, fear spread through the African elite, and none after the Guinea events ever found the courage to follow the example of Sekou Touré, whose slogan was, "We prefer freedom in poverty to opulence in slavery."
That's beautiful. He said, we prefer freedom in poverty to opulence in slavery. Because the worst thing, brothers, is a brother who thinks he's free. All right, but you're in still mental bondage. Read.
Sylvanus Olympio, the first president of the Republic of Togo, a tiny country in West Africa, found a middle ground solution with the French.
So these are all countries which France have dominated, okay, in Africa. That's why their main language was French and so forth. Go ahead.
He didn't want his country to continue to be a French dominion. Therefore, he refused to sign the colonization continuation pact de Gaulle proposed, but agreed to pay an annual debt to France.
So you had countries who got their freedom, so-called, from France, but they signed something called the Colonial Continuation Pact, which was a simple agreement that they signed, all right, which would allow France to what? Take some of the resources, well, not even some, all of the resources, charge them tax, interest, and crazy, just bugged out, crazy. Go ahead.
But agreed to pay an annual debt to France for the so-called benefits Togo got from French colonization. It was the only conditions for the French not to destroy the country before leaving.
Damn, go ahead.
However, the amount estimated by France was so big that the reimbursement of the so-called colonial debt was close to 40% of the country budget in 1963. The financial situation of the newly independent Togo was very unstable. So in order to get out of the situation, Olympio decided to get out the French colonial money, FCFA, the franc for French African colonies.
Yeah, they call it francophone too when you look it up. Go ahead.
And issue the county-owned currency. On January 13th, 1963, 3 days after he started printing his country-owned currency.
That's a no-no. You are not going to control your own money. Hell no. We know that ain't happening. Go ahead.
A squad of illiterate soldiers.
Some dumb nigger coons. That's what it is. The squad of illiterate soldiers. They were black. They were coons. Go ahead.
Backed by France.
Backed by Esau.
Killed the first elected president of newly independent Africa.
And these simple jakes didn't understand that that brother was fighting on their behalf. Okay? Or they gave him $2 and a bubble gum and a stick of gum just to overthrow their own brother. And that's what they did. Go ahead.
Olympia was killed by an ex-French foreign legionnaire, army sergeant called Etienne Nasingbe, who supposedly received a bounty of $612.
$612. Same thing with Judas. No new thing under the sun. Okay, what was it? 32 or 33 pieces of shekels, silver, or whatever. Go ahead. Same thing. $612.
From the local French embassy for the hitman job. Olympio's dream was to build an independent and self-sufficient and self-reliant country. But the French didn't like the idea.
Go down. Come on.
On June 30th, 1962, Modibo Keita, the first president of the Republic of Mali, decided to withdraw from the French colonial currency, FCFA, which was imposed on 12 newly independent African countries.
Notice what's going on here. They're trying to withdraw from the currency, the francophone that they had set up. Right? Remember what we read in Deuteronomy 28. He shall lend to thee, but thou shalt lend to him. You are not escaping these curses, man. You're not. Our only way out is keeping the commandments. Read.
For the Malian president, who was leaning more to a socialist economy, it was clear that colonization continuation pact with France was a trap, a burden for the country development. On November 19, 1968, like Olympia, Keita will be the victim of a coup carried out by another ex-French foreign legionnaire, the Lieutenant Moïse Traoré.
It's the same thing. Remember what we read? Remember what I told you earlier about the Dark Ages, how there was a lot of coup d'etats? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's why Christ has to come and rule over us and set people in place. Okay, because we still got that Negro mentality, whether it be here or over there on the continent. It's the same thing. Read.
In fact, during that turbulent period of African fighting to liberate themselves from European colonization, France would repeatedly use many ex-foreign legionnaires to carry out coups against elected presidents.
So go down. It gives you a list of people here. Go down. Read that part, in fact.
In fact, during the last 50 years,
pay attention.
A total of 67 coups happened in 26 countries in Africa. 16 of those countries are French ex-colonies, which means 61% of the coups happened in Francophone Africa.
That's the currency. Wherever the Francophone was at, and brothers wanted to establish their own currency, those coups happened. Okay? That's what they're still doing that today. Go ahead.
Ex-French colonies, other African countries, country number of coup, country number of coup. Togo, Egypt, Tunisia, Libya, 1 Côte d'Ivoire, Equatorial Guinea, 1 Madagascar, 1 Guinea-Bissau, Rwanda, Liberia, Algeria, Nigeria, Congo, RDC, 2 Ethiopia, Mali, Uganda, Guinea, Conakry, and Sudan.
Go down. So look at all of these countries. Congo, Chad, Burundi, Central Africa, Niger, Mauritania, Burkina Faso, Comoros. Go down. Read that part.
As these numbers demonstrate, France is quite desperate but active to keep a stronghold on his colonies, that whatever the cost, no matter what.
Read that.
In March 2008, former French President Jacques Chirac said, without Africa, France will slide down into the rank of a third world power.
So right there, we always hear the bishop quote that. That is the president that said that. Jacques Chirac. Okay? He said, without Africa, he's letting you know straight out that they're the devil that the Bible speaks of. Without Africa, France will slide down into the rank of a third world power. Go ahead.
Chirac's predecessor, Francois Mitterrand, already prophesied in 1957 that without Africa, France will have no history in the 21st century.
And it's the job of all the predecessors, all the presidents that sit in power over there to make sure that does not happen. That's why you have Emmanuel Macron now until this day. He's pushing the same sentiment. Okay? You get in that seat, you got to make sure you keep France as a superpower. Every nation is looking to dominate, except for the Israelites. Well, no, I'm not going to say except for the Israelites, except for the blacks. Because us Israelites, repentant Israelites, we're looking to dominate. Right. We're not looking for equality, and we're not looking to share the kingdom. We're looking to rule the kingdom under Christ. Okay? Come on.
At this very moment, I'm writing this article. 14 African countries are obliged by France through a colonial pact to put 85% of their foreign reserve into France central banks under French Minister of Finance control.
That's some wickedness right there. And they tell you what you need. if you need to, let's say, redo the highways, you have to contact France and tell them what you're going to need the money for. Can they please allocate you $3 million, 3 million francophone, whatever, to build their own highways? That's some colonization right there. That's some slavery for you right there. Go ahead.
Until now, 2014, Togo and about 13 other African countries still have to pay colonial debt to France. African leaders who refuse are killed or victim of coup.
That's why you have in Cameroon today the uproar. Who is Cameroon controlled by? France. Okay? Read.
Those who obey are supported and rewarded by France.
The coons who obey are supported and rewarded by France. They give you $618. Go ahead.
With lavish lifestyle while their people endure extreme poverty and desperation.
Go down, read that.
It's such an evil system, even denounced by the European Union.
No, it's not. No, it's not denounced by the European Union because they're not doing nothing about it. Go ahead.
But France is not ready to move from that colonial system, which puts about $500 billion from Africa to its treasury year in and year out.
That's why the picture up top, the man was so damn fat. $500 billion into its own banks from Africa. Go down, read.
We often accuse African leaders of corruption and serving Western nations' interest instead. But there is a clear explanation for that behavior. They behave so because they are afraid to be killed or victims of a coup.
Okay, that's understandable to a certain extent, but guess what? You gotta what? Stand for something or fall for what? Fall for anything. All right, go ahead.
They want a powerful nation to back them in case of aggression or trouble.
And that's not gonna happen. Well, a lot of these countries, that's why you see them making allegiance to what? China now in Africa, Russia, because they're trying to get that backup. But China and Russia is going to pull the same thing. It's going to be the same thing. Okay? The only help is from the Most High God and His Son. Go down.
They want a powerful nation to back them in case of aggression or trouble. But contrary to a friendly nation protection, the Western protection is often offered in exchange of these leaders renouncing to serve their own people or nation's interests.
Go down, go down, go down. Hold on. Okay, read that. Just read the title.
Colonial debt for the benefits of France colonization.
Go down.
Automatic confiscation of national reserves.
So these, I believe these, what we're reading is supposed to be the remedy for it. Go down. I want to make sure I'm right. Go down.
Right of first refusal on any raw or natural resource.
I'm sorry, no. It's not a way to remedy it. This is what France put in that pact that they had to sign. Mm-hmm. Read that one, number 3 again. Read that.
Right of first refusal on any raw or natural resource discovered in the country.
Hey, read Deuteronomy 28, verse 33 again. I don't think y'all brothers understand how real the Bible is. The Most High's word does not go out void. Okay? It's fulfilled. Okay? We are the Israelites. Come on, read.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
Oppressed and crushed always. Read number 3. Read number 3 again.
Right of first refusal on any raw or natural resource discovered in the country.
That's crazy. So you mean I find some gold, I find some silver, some basrite in my land. France has first dibs on it in my land, under my house. Says France has the first right to buy any natural resources found in the land of its ex-colonies. It's only after France would say, I'm not interested, that the African countries are allowed to seek other partners. Or allowed to seek other partners. So basically, you can have the crumbs from my table. That's if they even give you the crumbs. Oh, y'all reading what I'm reading? Come on, number 4.
Priority to French interests in companies in public procurement and public bidding.
Go down, number 5.
Exclusive right to supply military equipment and train the country military officers.
That's how they're able to stage coups. All right, they know okay, well, this one right here, he got the characteristics of a coon. I could control him as a puppet. This one right here, he's a little rebellious. we can't use him, but let's keep this one on the side over here. Let's make friends with him, allegiance with him, just in case this one out of here gets out of place. That's what they do. Go down. Number 6.
Right for France to redeploy troops and intervene military in the country to defend its interests.
It's not to defend you, like what you see going on with Boko Haram and what's going on in Cameroon. It's not for you. It's to defend their interests. What is their interest? We read it in Deuteronomy 28:33, the resources of the land. Okay, go down.
A cap right there was in the middle. It says,
Go back up so he could read it.
It says, this is what we read in Revelation. It says, under something called defense agreements attached to the colonial pact, France had the legal right to intervene militarily in the African countries and also to station troops permanently in bases and military facilities in those countries, run entirely by the French.
Now we read about that with the woman that sitteth upon many waters, America, right? Guess what? Her heads are the same way. Okay? The kings that wear the crowns, the 10 common markets are the same way. They all have the same MO. Go down. Come on. Number 7.
Obligation to make French the official language of the country and the language for education.
If you could control the language, you could control the minds of the people. That's what they did in Haiti. Okay? Go down.
Obligation to use France colonial money, FCFA.
Go down. Control the money.
Number 9. Obligation to send France annual balance and reserve report. Without the report, no money.
Yep. Without the report, no money. So we want to know what the hell you spending your money on.
Number 10.
These people are tight. They got everything intact on how to control you. Go ahead.
Number 10, renunciation to enter into military alliance with any other country unless authorized by France.
So we're going to control our invested interests. You want to do anything with the other nations, you got to let us know. Go ahead.
Number 11, obligation to ally with France in situations of war or global crisis.
Damn. Come on. There's more, and that's it. All praises. Let's get me the scene from Black Panther. Art imitates life. I like saying that thing. Life imitates art. Y'all remember this scene, right? It's the same thing. Same thing that we see, right? It's the same thing. And guess what? We ain't asking for nothing back either. That's right. All right? Say bye-bye, Ms. Laura. All right, take that down. Now get me the articles of the museums with our dear friends from France again. The article. Read that, Officer Lemuel.
Experts find nearly 90% of African art is outside the continent. Recommends French museums return stolen artifacts.
Oh, there's our, hey, France, again, once again. 90% of the art in Africa is in France. Come on. I'm telling you, just like it says in Obadiah, we're going to read that. These guys are glutton thieves, have stolen till they have not enough. Come on.
Paris Associated Press. African artworks held in French museums, richly carved thrones, doors to a royal kingdom, wooden statues imbued with spiritual meaning, may be heading back home to Africa at last.
Not. Go ahead.
French President Emmanuel Macron trying to turn the page of France's colonial past.
Trying, meaning he has not done yet and he can't. Okay, because there's people that rule over him that's telling him what to do. Remember what was prophesied by the president in Jacques Chirac in 1957. He already told them. He already laid it down. They all got to follow the same path. Go ahead.
Received a report Friday on returning art looted from African lands, from Senegal to Ethiopia. Artists, governments, and museums eagerly awaited the report by French art historian Benedict Savoy and Senegalese economist Felwine Saw, and commissioned by Macron himself.
Go ahead. So those are the different artifacts, just like in the movie Black Panther. Nothing new. Go down. Okay. Right there. Read.
It recommends that French museums give back works that were taken without consent if African countries request them, and could increase pressure on museums elsewhere in Europe to follow suit. The experts estimate that up to 90% of African art is outside the continent, including statues, thrones, and
Because
manuscripts.
they stole them all. Go ahead.
Thousands of works are held by just one museum. The Croix Branly Museum in Paris opened in 2006 to showcase non-European art, much of it from former French colonies. The museum wouldn't immediately comment on the report.
Because they're the devil that the Bible speaks of. And they know they're guilty, but they don't care. Go ahead.
Among disputed treasures in the Croix Branly are several works from the Dahomey Kingdom. In today's West African country of Benin, the metal and wood throne of 19th century King Gizo, the doors to the palace of King Gel, and imposing wooden statues.
Go ahead.
The head of Ethiopia's Authority for Research and Conservation of
Go down. Let's skip that. Let's skip that. Something I'm looking for. Go down. Hold up. Read the part where it says the report.
The report is part of broader promises by Macron to turn the part of France's troubled relationship with Africa. In a groundbreaking meeting with students in Burkina Faso last year, Macron stressed the undeniable crimes of European colonization and said he wants pieces of African cultural heritage to return to Africa, temporarily or definitively.
What's the problem with that? That's why I tell you got to pay attention, man. Esau speaks with a forked tongue, like our brothers from the native and Hispanic tribes said about the white man, the devil on earth. Notice what he said. Go back up. Some of y'all are sleeping in La La Land. Read that part again, the report. Let me read it. The report is part of a broader promises by Macron to turn the page on France's troubled relationship with Africa. In a groundbreaking meeting with students in Burkina Faso last year, Macron stressed the undeniable crimes of European colonization, right? So that sounds good. The undeniable crimes of European colonization, right? And said he wants pieces of African cultural heritage to return to Africa temporarily? Why is that word there? What do you mean temporarily? What do you mean temporarily? Bro, this is yours. This is for Officer Lemuel. Here I am, the fat French Edomite. I come, I take this. Go ahead, say you want it back.
Can I get my stand back?
Well, no, monsieur, this is mine. This is very good. I cannot give it to you back. I don't know.
But it's mine. You took it from me. I just want to get it back.
Salope. I will take for myself. Go ahead, try to snatch it.
Yeah, let me get that.
Yeah, no, it's mine. It's
But
mine.
it's mine.
Give me,
What
it's mine. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. Okay, now people don't see that. Just look at the word. How are you going to take something from somebody and said, well, we're going to think about giving it back temporarily? What the hell? It's his. It's for him. Go ahead. It's wicked as hell.
Yeah, earlier they were saying that they was going to open up museums and put non-European artwork in the museums. Now they saying they're going to let Africa borrow it for a minute because they need it back in the museums
that's
they
wicked
build.
as hell. Guess what? They all have the same MO. The British did that to Ghana with the golden stool. Look it up. They did the same thing with that golden stool that the Ashanti Kingdom had. Britain did the same thing. They do the same thing because they all are part of the same beast. Different heads on the same beast. Okay? Read that next part where it says, I cannot.
I cannot accept that a large part of African heritage is in France. He said at that time.
But it is 90% of it.
Oh, I cannot accept. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I cannot accept it. Oh.
Go ahead. Come on.
The French report could have broader repercussions. In Cameroon, Professor Verkajika Franco, historian at the University of Yaoundé, said, France is feeling the heat of what others will face. Let their decision to bring back what is ours motivate others.
All praises for that. But look at this. This is why our white Hebrew Israeli partners, well, I'm not going to say partners, our white Hebrew Israeli counterparts, right? This is why they don't fit the curses. Look at this right here.
Germany has worked to return art seized by the Nazis.
Come on.
And in May, the organization that coordinates that effort, the German Lost Art Foundation, said it was starting a program to research the provenance of cultural objects collected during the country's colonial past.
So all the art that they took from the white Hebrew Israeli victims of the Holocaust, those things get returned. Those things that they stole, they get returned. But for us, it's a problem. I cannot accept that all the art is in France. This time, these people are the devil. You know why? Because all those pieces of art not only remind them of their dominance over the continent and over us, but it's also worth money. Lots of money. Okay? Close this out. Unbelievable. Get me the law on that. Get me Job 22, verse 6. Well, this is not the law, but there is a law in Deuteronomy that speaks about the pledge. When you take somebody's pledge, you got to return it. This man breaks every commandment. That's why they should not be calling themselves a Christian nation, whether it be here in America, Britain, France, Spain, all them churches where they teach religion, that should be shut down. They don't follow not one law in the Bible. Come on.
This is the book of Job, chapter 22 and verse 6. For thou hast taken a pledge from thy brother for naught, and stripped the naked of their clothing.
And that's what they do. They've taken our pledge for naught, and they strip us of our clothing to wear. That's why the people in Africa are walking around butt naked. And I'm talking about the Israelites that are scattered in Africa. I'm not talking about the Hamites. I'm worried about my people. Okay, the Israelites scattered in Africa. Poverty, as it's mentioned in Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, the 10th verse. Walking around butt naked without their pledge. Okay? It says, I have here written, it says, all Edomites have a lust for power and greed, okay? And that's why the illustration, you had the skinny African person feeding the fat Edomite. Get me Obadiah, chapter 1. We're going to read 1 through 6. Obadiah, chapter 1, 1 through 6. Come on.
Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom.
Concerning who?
Edom.
Concerning your friend, the neighborhood friendly white man. Go ahead.
We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle.
Come on.
Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen.
So God said he made them small amongst the heathen. Come on.
Thou art greatly despised.
Thou art greatly despised. No, not for your color or lack of melanin. No. You're greatly despised because the spirit that is in you is not upright. Okay? Because of your devilish actions. That's what God says. Come on.
Verse 3. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock.
We read that in Malachi earlier. Come on.
Whose habitation is high.
Come on.
That saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?
Come on.
Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars,
come on.
Thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord.
Read on.
If thieves came to thee.
This is the part that I wanted. If what?
If thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off?
You hear that? So if thieves came, if somebody breaks into your house, right? They know that, okay, there's a good possibility they might get caught. Cops might get called, whatever. Somebody might spot them. They might take a little jewelry here. They're going to look for money. They're going to look for the little stash box if you have one. They might grab the TV if they can carry it out without being seen, if it's a small TV. But this man, he comes in, he wants the bed. He wants the damn dresser, the cabinet. He wants everything. That's this man. That is the trait of Esau. Go ahead.
If thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off?
How art thou cut off? Come on.
Would they not have stolen till they had enough?
So God is saying, isn't he going to stop stealing till he had enough? This guy's just a glut. He's a glutton. He is a glutton. Go ahead.
If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? How are the things of Esau searched out?
So how are the things of Esau searched out? Come on.
How are his hidden things sought up?
How are his hidden things sought up? All right. Get me the article on Gaddafi. Get me the article on Gaddafi.
Libyan oil, gold, and Gaddafi. The strange email Sidney Blumenthal sent Hillary Clinton in 2011. One of Clinton's closest advisors passed her an intelligence report prepared by an ex-CIA official that speculated about France's motivations for bombing Libya.
Come on.
2 weeks after France began bombing Libya in March 2011, Hillary Clinton's old friend and advisor, Sidney Blumenthal, passed her an intelligence memo that supposedly revealed France's true and quite unflattering motivations for toppling Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. While France's then president Nicolas Sarkozy publicly said he wished to free the Libyan people from tyranny.
Lies. Same thing they doing in Cameroon today, and the same thing they're starting to do in Nigeria. Okay? I'm going to show you a video about that with Nigeria. Go ahead.
Blumenthal's memo argues that he was driven by a cocktail of less lofty incentives, including a desire for Libyan oil and a fear that Gaddafi...
So France was driven for a lust that we just read about in Obadiah, and a desire for what? Libyan oil, and a fear, this is the part that I wanted, and a fear.
It says secretly planned, a fear that Gaddafi secretly planned to use his vast supply of gold to displace France's primacy in the region.
So what is that going into? Remember how Gaddafi wanted to establish the African Union, their own currency? Remember those other brothers that we read about that was trying to do away with the French currency? And what happened to them? They were killed, coup d'etat. Remember that? Read, same thing. Come on.
Libya watchers aren't so sure that Blumenthal was passing the U.S. Secretary of State solid intelligence. For me, it's not credible. Former French diplomat and Libya expert Patrick Hamzadah told Vice News when asked about the Blumenthal memo.
Of course, he's going to deny it. Go ahead.
Hamzadah worked at the French embassy in Tripoli.
Let me read. Hamzadah worked at the French embassy in Tripoli from 2001 to 2004 and wrote the 2011 study in the heart of Gaddafi's Libya. In 2011, everyone was saying anything and everything about Libya. Hamzadah said, but in fact, no one really knew what was going on. At the time, the French intelligence services and the CIA were in the dark. For example, the French services said the war would last 3 days. In reality, it took 8 months. Go down there. The most recent batch of Clinton emails, her emails was revealed through a lawsuit that Vice filed to get this information. Okay? So the most recent batch of Clinton remember the what was that case where those some of the Navy SEALs died? What was that shooting? Benghazi. Remember she had her own server to hide her emails and her stuff? So they was able to retrieve some things, right? It says the most recent batch of Clinton emails reveals perhaps the most bizarre morsel of Blumenthal-baked intelligence to date. An April 2nd, 2011 memo titled France's Client Q's Gold quotes knowledgeable individuals with insider information about French President Nicolas Sarkozy's motivation for bombing Libya. The military campaign, the anonymous sources say, was designed to quash plans by Gaddafi to use $7 billion in secret gold and silver to prop up a new African currency. The French worried the move would undercut the currency guaranteed by the French treasury, known as the CFA franc, that's widely used in West Africa and acts as a strong link between France and many of its former African colonies. Why does it say former African colonies? Because they signed the what? The Colonial Pact Continuation Agreement, okay? After French intelligence officials got wind of this secret plan, the Blumenthal memo reports Sarkozy freaked out. This was one of the factors that influenced his decisions to commit France to the attacks on Libya. So, hold on, let me see that article again. All right, go down. So their whole objective to getting Gaddafi out, brothers, was they were scared about the undermining of what he was about to establish, and it was going to do away with the French currency and the stronghold that they have in Africa. Okay? That's why we read in Obadiah that what? This man is a thief. All right? He's a glutton. He's a glutton. He cannot have enough, as the prophecy says. Get me 1 Ezra 5 and verse 73. And of course, what did they use to go in there? Up above, we read that it was to the reason that they went in there was to overthrow tyranny, right? Gaddafi's reign and tyranny. All of that was propaganda. All of that was lies. All of that was what? Red herring, what the bishop brought out last week. Okay? All of that was red herring. All of that was lies, a distraction. Come on, read 1 Ezra.
Book of 1 Ezra, chapter 5 and verse 73. And by their secret plots and popular persuasion and commotions, they hindered the finishing of the building all the time that King Cyrus lived.
Read it again.
Verse 73. And by their secret plots and popular persuasion.
By their secret plots, because nobody knew about this until years after Gaddafi is long dead. America did nothing. That shows you that the great whore is in allegiance with the other heads that came up out of her. Okay? They all in allegiance. Okay? Nothing happened to France for that. Nothing happened to Hillary for that. Okay? By their secret plots and popular what?
Persuasions. And commotions. They hindered the finishing
of... So the popular persuasions is propaganda. That was the red herring that the bishop brought out last week. Okay? They did the same thing against Gaddafi. We're almost done. Show me the video of Nigeria. And guess what? That propaganda, that popular persuasion is the same thing we read about in the book of Revelation when it talks about the mouth of the beast. Because they're able to persuade the minds of the people through what? Social media. Social media, that's the mouth of the beast. You communicate with your mouth. It's the same thing they're doing to us with the Israelites. It's the same thing that they're doing. It's the same thing. The same exact thing. Now play this.
So the message could be relayed to the French authorities wherever they are.
So this is about Nigeria. Now we know that France did not colonize Nigeria, right? Who colonized Nigeria?
Shalom, Captain. Britain.
Thank you very much. Write that down so next time you're not calling out wrong answers. Britain colonized Nigeria. Britain colonized Nigeria. Okay? Go ahead. Press play.
France, that Nigeria is indeed a sovereign country, and as such, any form or attempt to compromise our territorial integrity will be resisted wholeheartedly. At this point, I want to stress, Nigeria was not colonized by France. Therefore, they have no business coming to toy with our lives here. We are aware that some vested interest was not happy with the game.
So France, right now, this day is trying to get into Nigeria by ways of humanitarian, whatever they doing over there. Humanitarian reasons, right? To help them fight against Boko Haram, supposedly. Because remember, Nigeria originally reached out to who for help against Boko Haram? The U.S. And what did Obama tell them? Yes, they said legalize homosexuality and then we'll help you. Nigeria said, hell no. So they turned from one dragon and went to the other one. Okay? They went right to France and asked for help. Go ahead.
Made by the Nigerian government and especially our dear President Muhammad Buhari in the fight against terrorism. As such, they began providing logistic support under a cover called humanitarian whatever to the Boko Haram fighters. They also assumed the role of the mouthpiece of the Boko Haram terrorist group. They used their state medium to promote their nefarious activities and to give them the needed psychological boost, claiming human rights for people that have been raised, trained to kill fellow Nigerians by them. The movement against slavery and terrorism wishes to state categorically...
So she's saying that they're coming in and they're not helping the Nigerian government to fight Boko Haram. They're actually funding it. They're funding it. The same way how information has been revealed how the CIA here in America was funding Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and so forth. It's the same thing with Boko Haram. They're saying France is coming in and they're actually giving weapons to Boko Haram to keep the fighting going on because they have there's something on the side that they're trying to do. So they're gonna throw a red herring out there to what? Distract you. Okay, go ahead.
To state categorically and on unequivocal terms that France is indeed responsible for the resurgence of Boko Haram attacks in Nigeria. The movement against slavery and terrorism wishes to inform the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, that the world is indeed watching closely, and we, especially Nigerians, are also watching very closely. And should the French authorities not halt the spread of terrorism in Nigeria, the day of reckoning is indeed near.
Yes, y'all hear the way this sister speaking? That's how your wives gotta be. All of y'all wives gotta be on the same mindset. If your wives ain't speaking like that, something wrong with you. I ain't even talking about them. Something is wrong with you men in the house. Go ahead.
And very, very near. We are also aware that the actions of France are hinged on economic benefits, given the avalanche of economic resources in northeast Nigeria, particularly the Lake Chad Basin region. This is indeed an attempt at recolonization. What did I say? It is another attempt at recolonization by France after we have been colonized by Britain. We are not under France, and we will not allow for France to come and colonize us again by violence, which by all standard is quarrel and won't stand the test of time, because Nigerians will resist every move with passion. Let me pause here and give you one statistics. In March 2008, listen to this quote and please put it on record and on your medium. Without Africa, France will slide down into the rank of 23rd power of the world. That is, quote and unquote, former French President Jacques Chirac. Another quote and unquote, without Africa, France will have no history in the 21st century, by Francois Mitterrand. This was a prophecy given in 1957. Now, I want to digress a little bit. In 14 African countries are obliged by France through the colonial pact to put 85% of their reserves in the Central Bank of France. That is not enough for them. Under the French Ministry of Finance, in 2014, Togo and 13 other African countries still have to pay the colonial debt, which they do not owe, to France. African leaders who refuse to pay are either killed or victims of coup d'etat, and those who obey these oppressive conditions are supported and rewarded with a lifetime rulership and not leadership of their people. This strangulating colonial system offers France, please put it on record, a cash of about 500 billion US dollars. I mean 500 billion US dollars year in, year out, which they now in turn use to purchase weapons of destruction for fellow Africans and especially Nigerians, for us to begin to kill one another. This is unacceptable to us. It is no longer tolerable. We will not accept it. Yes. And in the case for Nigerians to kill Nigerians, we say no to this. We say no. You cannot continue to use money from Africa to buy weapons, arms and ammunition for Nigerians and other African countries to kill themselves. We say no. I said we say no. No. We say no. The movement against slavery is also calling on United Nations to investigate the role of France in the spread of terrorism in Nigeria and the whole of Africa. France must also stop the sale of arms and ammunition to the Boko Haram terrorist groups in the interest of peace and tranquility. That is what we need for us to progress and succeed. This is on the heels that the bulk of the French NGOs operating in Northeast Nigeria are carrying out espionage activities and passing the same to the leadership of the Boko Haram terrorist groups on the instruction of French authorities because of their business interests. In the business of selling arms and ammunition to Nigerians to kill Nigerians. The movement against slavery and terrorism is indeed saying enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. And France must stop the distasteful support it has been extending to the Boko Haram terrorist group in Nigeria, which is aimed at making Nigeria erupt in flames. And Nigeria will not erupt in flames. Instead, France will erupt in flames.
All right, so a lot of these Nigerians are very resilient. They're very resilient, okay? And the women and the men. Okay, I'm going to show you something real quick, all right? I know we've been talking about France, but we're going to shift gears just a minute. or Nigeria. Get me that article that I sent, the government article. I know I brought this out in a class a long time ago, but I want to read it again. Because notice she said they're going to resist France wholeheartedly, or they're going to try to resist France wholeheartedly. Okay, it's the same thing they did in the past. Get me the, which one are you going to get? Get me Igbo Landing. Just type it in. Just type it in.
Igbo Landing is a historic site at Dunbar Creek on St. Simon's Island, Glenn County, Georgia. It was the setting of a mass suicide in 1803 by captive Igbo people who had taken control of their slave ship and refused to submit to slavery in the United States. The event's moral value as a story of resistance towards slavery has symbolic importance in African American folklore and literary history.
So when you go into this, the Igbo people we know come from where? What part? What country? Mainly Nigeria, just like that woman, right? And they're very resilient. A lot of them rather commit suicide than be taken into slavery. Okay, so what they did, they overthrew the 2 captains of the ship, and then eventually they committed suicide. Some escaped, but a majority of them committed suicide. Now, get me the article from the government website in regards to the Igbo, a memorandum that Henry Kissinger, the devil, was writing to another devil, Richard Nixon, the Edomite.
Biafra, Colonel Ojukwu, 35, British-trained erstwhile playboy.
That's who they were trying to overthrow. Come on.
Presides over the popular support and military morale of a people convinced that defeat means extinction.
That's the same. That was the same temperament that sister had. It was the same temperament that the people in the Igbo Landing had. Go ahead.
The Igbos are the wandering Jews of West Africa.
The Igbos are the what?
Wandering Jews of West Africa.
We say it, you don't believe it, but here, the white man said it, so maybe you'll believe it now. Go ahead.
Gifted, aggressive, westernized, at best envied and resented.
Envied and resented.
But mostly despised by the mass of their neighbors in the Federation.
Which are the Hamites. Come on.
They have fought well by African standards against heavy odds. Their cynical public relations use of the starvation has been brilliant.
Okay, so X that out. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up to show you how resilient the sisters are, and that's how these sisters should be. But the sisters are never gonna get in order unless you men get in order. Y'all understand that? Sir. All right, your wife's mind state should be the same as yours. If it's not, you ain't doing your job right. I don't care what you say when you come in here. You ain't doing your job right if her mind state ain't the same as yours. Y'all brothers understand? Yes, sir. Okay, you say yes now. We'll see. Only time will tell. Get me the last article on this Edomite demon, Emmanuel Macron. Now the truth is coming out. This is what he has to say.
Macron tells G5 leaders to address anti-French sentiment for continued military cooperation in Sahel.
That's some wicked stuff right there. Anti-French sentiment. They ain't getting beat on. Nobody ain't killing them. All they doing is speaking up against the evils, the atrocities committed by this beast. And he's saying to tell them to stop. Go ahead.
President Emmanuel Macron on Wednesday demanded West African leaders dismiss growing anti-French sentiment across the region.
That's the same thing that they trying to do here with that bill that Trump just signed, right? Saying, no, you're anti-Semitic. They're pushing this propaganda on the news about black Hebrew Israelites, okay? Oh, they're anti-Semitics. It's the same thing. We speak out against the evils done on this side. They putting laws in place. Oh, you can't say Revelation 2 verse 9. No, we are going to read that because those are not the Jews. Okay, those are not the Jews. They got 2 names. 3 names. Either you could call them Amalek, what God calls them, or you could call them Esau, what God calls them, or you could call them white Hebrew Israelis. But we will never agree, and we will never utter out of our lips that those are the Jews, because those are not the Jews. We are the Jews that the Bible speaks of. All right, come on, read.
Scroll back up to the bowl. I didn't finish. Anti-French sentiment across the region if they wanted France's military to continue its operations against Islamist militants.
Come on.
France, the former colonial power, is the only Western country with a significant military presence, waging counterinsurgency operations in Mali and the wider Sahel. an arid region of West Africa just below the Sahara Desert. Rather than stabilizing, security has progressively worsened, with Islamist militants strengthening their foothold across the region and making large swaths of territory ungovernable and stoking ethnic violence, especially in Mali and Burkina Faso. The French government has faced criticism at home that its troops are bogged down, while critical voices in the region have increasingly scorned Paris for failing to restore stability, and anti-French sentiment has grown. I want them, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Chad, and Mauritania, to clarify and formalize their demands regarding France and the international community. Do they want our presence, and do they need it?
So they'll start an insurrection, fund these guys, give them weapons, and now they say, do you need our help? Well, you're the ones giving them weapons. Just like the lady brought out the information, and I'm going to show you why she said that. Go ahead.
I want clear answers to these questions.
Who the hell is you to demand clear answers? Can we get our artifacts back from the museum that you say maybe you'll temporarily give it back? How about that colonization pact agreement? Can you annul that? Come on.
He said at a news conference after a NATO summit in London.
All right, bring that out. This guy's the damn devil that the Bible speaks of. Unbelievable. The caucasity of these demons, man. I'm telling you. Get me the last article on, it says West African nations hope to launch shared currency. Remember what the lady said about how they're over there in Nigeria. Okay, we know that it was Britain who once colonized Nigeria. Now France is trying to step in, but why? She said it's not for humanitarian reasons. It's not. She even exposed how they were funding both sides, giving weapons to Boko Haram in northeast Nigeria. Same thing they're doing in Mali and Sahel and Cameroon. Okay, funding both sides of the war to protect their invested interests. Read.
West African nations hope to launch shared currency by 2020.
So West African nations are hoping to launch their own currency by 2020. Is it going to happen? I highly doubt it, but it might. Who knows? We don't know.
15 West African nations have announced more details about their plan for a new shared currency, the ECO, which they hope to launch in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The name comes from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, whose leaders met in Nigerian capital Abuja.
Whose leaders met where?
In Nigerian capital.
What country?
Nigeria. Nigerian capital Abuja on Saturday before making the announcement.
So majority of the ECOWAS are countries that are still paying taxes and still colonized by France. Those countries want to come together and establish their own currency. Go ahead.
In a statement, ECOWAS said member countries had adopted a flexible exchange rate regime. They will next work with the West African Monetary Institute, West African Monetary Agency, and central banks to create a new revised single currency roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
The countries that plan to adopt the currency are Benin,
France rule,
Burkina Faso,
France rule,
Cape Verde,
France,
Gambia.
I believe that's Germany. I'm not sure if that's France. Go ahead.
Ghana,
once British,
Guinea,
France,
Guinea-Bissau,
France,
Ivory Coast,
France,
Liberia,
America,
Mali,
France,
Niger,
British,
Nigeria,
British,
Senegal,
France,
Sierra Leone,
France,
and Togo.
France. A majority of that is whom? What beast? The fourth beast, France, right? Read.
Together they have a population of about 385 million people.
Mm-hmm.
The eight French-speaking ECOWAS members have had a single currency, the West African CFA franc.
The West African CFA franc. Come on.
Since colonial times. It is currently pegged to the euro.
Come on.
Niger's President Muhammadu Isufu, the newly elected chairman of ECOWAS, said there is a real firm political will to step up efforts ahead of the scheduled January 2020 deadline.
Go down a bit, go down, go down, go down. Okay, and that's it on that. So now we see why, because Nigeria, when you read other articles, Nigeria is spearheading this movement. So now all of a sudden, France is trying to creep into Nigeria. Okay, because I had to dig deep into this thing. I'm like, yo, why is this guy talking about, oh, you can't talk about France and all the atrocities that they committed? And I had to see what this lady was talking about. So as you do the research, you see why France is trying to get up in there with Nigeria. Follow the money. Follow the money. Remember, Without Africa, they shall become a what? Third world country. Third world country. Get me Isaiah 29:16.
Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay.
Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. That's what God is doing. The Most High is going to reveal all the evils that our enemies have been doing. Everything under the sun, everything hidden in the closet, the Most High is going to reveal. Okay? Read that again.
Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay.
Come on.
For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he had no understanding?
Get me 2 Thessalonians. 2 Thessalonians 2, and you're going to read 6 to 8. Last scripture. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 6 to 8.
This is the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 6. And now ye know that, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might reveal in his time. For the mystery of iniquity.
Read it again from the beginning.
And now ye know what withhold, that he might be revealed in his time. For
that he might be revealed in his time. In his time. The time is now. The time of revealing who the wicked is now. The time of revealing the son of perdition is now. The time of revealing who the Edomites are to the whole world is now. By who? The Israelites. Us. You brothers. Okay? By speaking God's words. Not your words, but God's words. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 7. For the mystery of iniquity.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery to all nations who the Edomites are, who the wicked is. It says, for the mystery of iniquity, come on,
doth already work.
Because during the time of Paul, he was already at work. The Romans. Okay, come on.
Only he who now letteth will.
No.
Only he who now letteth will let.
Come on.
Until he be taken out of the way.
Come on. So the Most High said he's going to take them out of the way. Go ahead.
And then shall that wicked be revealed.
And then shall that wicked be revealed. Come on.
Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth.
And the Most High is the one that's going to consume him with the spirit of his mouth by bringing out the prophecies, right? And by bringing out exactly what the wicked and who the wicked is and what he's doing in these end time. Read that last part again. Verse 8.
Verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed. Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
All praises to the Most High for that. The Most High says, you're going to bring this word out, and then I'm going to bring destruction on this man with the brightness of his coming. The coming of who, brothers? Christ. So that's who we're waiting for. All right, so we're going to close it out on that and get ready for the bishop's class, all right? All praises to the Most High, brothers.
We used to scream black power while Heron was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.